Years ago, I heard someone talking about their feelings of imposter syndrome, and I was just so impressed. I was impressed because it's not often that somebody can be that honest with themselves and humble enough to share it in front of a group. I was at a training for therapists, and this man, one of the leaders, actually came up and said, "Hey, listen, this is something that I've dealt with, and I know we all do." And I felt so validated in that moment because I know at times I have definitely felt those feelings of inadequacy, especially when I'm sitting in the chair with clients and hoping that I know what I'm doing and wanting to be doing the best that I can, but knowing that in my imperfections I will fall short and feeling insecure about those shortcomings and weaknesses. My name is Monica Mouer, and I am a licensed professional counselor, and I'm also the director of the CFT Institute. At the CFT Institute, the Center for Transformation Institute, we exist to partner with therapists to help you enhance your personal and professional growth, because we believe that personal growth actually enhances professional growth. You have to get yourself together personally in order to take your clients to the next level and take your practice to the next level. I know that imposter syndrome is a phrase that a lot of us have heard of, and maybe some of us have never heard of it, but it just has to do with those feelings of inadequacy, those feelings of insecurity that come up in any profession really, but definitely are unique to us as therapists as we are attempting to be there for clients in a profound and helpful way. And we're getting paid for that level of presence. It's good to note that if we don't deal with this issue of imposter syndrome in our lives, that we will not be helpful for clients. Because if we're living in anxiety and insecurity ourselves, it creates a sense of distance from the client. And we know that a lot of our ability to help clients has to do with our ability to stay calm ourselves and attune and synchronize with the client where they are. And if we are feeling fear or inadequacy or shame ourselves, it will hinder us from being as effective as we want to be. And why did we enter this field unless we wanted to be effective? So it's really important for us to deal with this. So I'm going to be discussing 3 ways that we can deal with our own sense of imposter syndrome, our own sense of inadequacy and weakness. One of the ways that I believe is really helpful is to stay humble. I love Patrick Lencioni's statement about the most powerful team player. That is a person who is humble, hungry, and smart. And we really need all 3 of those in our field. We need to stay humble, we need to be hungry and want to learn, and we also need to have a sense of intelligence to be able to go where we need to go to learn what we need to learn and become who we need to become to help ourselves so that we can help others. We're wounded healers, right? And so, that sense of staying humble. And I remember the first therapist who I ever worked with. He was my supervisor, an older man who was a psychologist, probably retired by now. But 20 some years ago, when I was in my internship, my practicum and internship, he offered me such valuable insights. And as I was heading out into the wide world of being a professional counselor, he said something to me. He said, "Beware of the God complex." This is something that happens to therapists when they get licensed, because we sit in our little rooms with our people who come pay us money to hear what we have to say and how we can be there for them. We can kind of get locked inside of this space of feeling like we are all-knowing and all-powerful in people's lives, because people are listening to us. They're hearing what we have to say. They're coming to us, actually giving us financial remuneration for the things that we have to say in our presence. But we aren't God. We aren't all-knowing, we aren't all-powerful, and we need to stay humble in order to be able to learn and grow. Humility, meekness is such an important trait. And we know that pride is the opposite of humility. And becoming prideful and haughty, arrogant in what we know and who we are is the worst thing, because I believe that pride is directly connected to insecurity. And the more prideful I am, the more insecure I am. The more narcissistic I am, the more insecure I am. And that, I think, has a direct correlation to imposter syndrome. I believe that when we're prideful, deep down, there's a sense of insecurity, that we are trying to kind of boast ourselves and push ourselves up, boost ourselves up, to create a sense of false confidence, because we're not confident. But that true humility is a sign of confidence, that when I'm confident, there's a true sense of a foundation underneath it, because I can stay humble and act meek and mild, and not that I know everything, but really be confident in what I do know and bring that to the table in a really powerful way. So I believe humility is the first way to combat imposter syndrome, feelings of inadequacy and shame. And then secondly, I believe it's really important for us as therapists to embrace our own weaknesses. There's the concept of being tender to my weakness, not shaming myself, not toxically shaming myself. I know if you know anything about internal family systems, IFS work, we talk a lot about the managers and firefighters and how those parts of myself are not going to go away just because I don't want them there. My weaknesses don't go away because I don't want the weaknesses. My weaknesses are healed when I embrace my weaknesses, when I realize that I walk with a limp, that I am a wounded healer, that I'm not perfect. And I'm tender to those areas of my life, and I admit them, I embrace them, I realize that in my weakness I can be strong because I embrace those concepts, those things about myself, my imperfections, and I learn to love myself anyway. And isn't that what we're trying to teach our clients to do? To embrace their weaknesses, to love themselves despite their weaknesses and failures, to learn that they are a person worthy of love and belonging because they're imperfect. I love how Brene Brown says, that we want to teach our children that they are perfectly imperfect. We don't want to teach our children that they're perfect and that they are loved because they're perfect. That sets us up for failure. And so as therapists, we want to embrace this idea of our weaknesses being our strengths. That when we can understand our failures, we can actually grow. And that is such an important piece to overcoming imposter syndrome, because if I'm trying to be perfect, then my imperfections are going to cause me to feel like I'm an imposter, like I don't belong in this field. But if I can embrace my weaknesses and know that I don't have to be perfect in order to be helpful, I can walk boldly and confidently into that room to help the client. I can shut that door and be present because I'm another human who just wants to care. And the most important part of who I am is that I actually do care, that I came into this field because I want to help, not because I'm perfect. And that brings up this final concept, and that is the concept of continuing to embrace growth. I think that if I'm humble and if I'm embracing my weaknesses, but I'm not going after more personal and professional growth, that I am doing a disservice to my clientele and to myself. Life is about growth. From my perspective, it's about self-actualization, about getting to the next level in terms of who you are and who you're becoming. We are supposed to be growing in this life. We're supposed to be getting to the next level. And if we don't figure that out, if we don't just if we stay stuck, if we don't go to the next level of figuring out, you know, how to address the weaknesses in my life, in our lives, then we're not going to grow. And so my previous point about embracing our weaknesses is not at the expense of not growing. That would be avoidance. That would be ignoring problems. And that is definitely not who we want to be. We want to live out our most complete and full destiny. We want to become all we can be so that we can enjoy life to the fullest and help others on this earth to the best of our ability. That is so strong within me. And so I cannot say to the fullest extent possible how I feel so deeply. We each need to be taking an inventory of our psychological growth, of our maturity, of the ways that we do fall short in life, and figuring out how to heal. How we need to go to therapy ourselves. We need to read the books. We need to learn the therapeutic techniques. We need to align ourselves with our spirituality and grow in our personal relationships. Receive feedback, healthy feedback from others, so that we can grow ourselves and become all that we're supposed to be personally. And then we also need to grow professionally. It's not enough to just go to some basic trainings and just get our degree and just skate by. What we want to do is actually go after growing and stretching ourselves, not just becoming complacent and lazy with the gift we've been given, but actually stretching ourselves to grow to our fullest professionally in terms of learning those modalities and those conceptualizations that are going to take us personally to the next level, as well as helping our clients get to the next level. And I know there's such a need for self-care and not pushing ourselves, not striving so far, pushing our limits that we burn out, like my previous episode discussed. But getting to the point where we actually desire growth so much that we're willing to stretch ourselves and become uncomfortable so that we can become all we're supposed to be. I truly believe we don't have much time on this earth. We don't know, if we'll have tomorrow. We don't know if we'll have the next minute. I mean, something could happen right now and we could be gone. Or we could live out many, many more decades of life and be able to serve others. And so we want to truly make every day count. We want to live in rhythms of rest and joy and delight and work and growth and stretching ourselves and letting ourselves become uncomfortable in terms of learning more and putting ourselves in situations that will stretch us and cause us more growth. And so those are some of the things that I truly believe will help us combat imposter syndrome, combat those feelings of inadequacy and lack of confidence. So if this was helpful to you today, please subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for many more helpful ways that we can partner with you to grow and become the best that you can be in your personal life and in your counseling practice.